This is Dr. Don White, and this podcast provides an overview of how to set up the DuPage County Regional Office of Education evaluation tool. This tool is used by the evaluator who will be completing the evaluation of an administrator. Could be a superintendent evaluating a principal, or an assistant superintendent, or an assistant superintendent evaluating a director. There are multiple podcasts provided as part of this series. I encourage you to listen to all of them so that you gain a complete understanding of how the tool works. There are multiple components to complete the evaluation. Most important thing to understand is that this file is used throughout the year for each administrator. I typically save a file on my computer with the name of the person being evaluated, and then I just reuse that file throughout the year until I complete the summative evaluation. This podcast only provides information about setting it up at the beginning of the year. Additional information about using the file is included in the additional podcasts. The first worksheet is called the Directions and Information Worksheet. I encourage you to read this information as it includes some very helpful directions about using this file. The yellow worksheets are information that may also be helpful. In order to set up the file for use throughout the year, the first thing to visit is the Eval Info and Rankings worksheet. As stated in a previous podcast, anytime you see red, that's where you will enter information. So the first thing you need to do is begin by entering the demographic information at the top of this worksheet. Notice that once you enter the information, the cells turn white. That means that you will not have to enter information again. The next step is to determine the weighting for the 10 P-cell standards. This file was created to give each district complete flexibility in determining the weighting for various components. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm simply going to enter 10% for each of the standards. We are equally weighting these, in other words. Notice that when I'm done, the total at the bottom, where it says total must be 100%, does equal 100%. If I don't reach 100% or I happen to have a mistake when I enter the information, you will see the red at the bottom, which means I need to correct the information. The next step to consider is the overall evaluation ratings. The team that developed this tool felt strongly enough that we've already populated the percentages that we believe to be appropriate. Again, this is a completely local decision. For this demonstration, I'm going to leave these the same. The next step is to determine the rating ranges for professional practice, the student growth ranges, and the summative rating ranges. You can change what's already been populated. Again, the team that developed this determined what they believe to be the appropriate ranges. The next step is to consider the professional practice and summative rating labels. There are only two areas that you need to decide, and you can tell by the red cells. The first one, it says select basic or needs improvement. There is a drop-down arrow that you can use, and for this purpose I'm going to select basic. And notice that the red cells turn white. And the last piece of information on this worksheet would be to select the fourth, and I'm going to select distinguished. The next step in setting up the file is on the indicator selection worksheet. Notice that the standard number along the left-hand side is turned green. This is a result of selecting a percentage back on the first worksheet at the very top where we entered 10% for each of the standards. If I enter 0 or leave it blank, when I return to the indicator selection worksheet, you will notice that it is blue for standard 1. The rest of the standards are green. I'm going to go back and turn that back to 10% for this demonstration. Then back to the indicator selection worksheet. Once again, it's green. And now because I've said that that's going to be weighted at 10% of the overall professional practice rating, I now need to select at least one of the indicators. So upon review, I'm going to select 3 of the indicators for Standard 1. And then I would continue throughout the program, selecting the indicators that I believe to be important. I typically do this collaboratively with the administrators. We start as a team, and then I work collaboratively with each individual administrator to determine the appropriate indicators for that leader's assigned duties. Once again, there's complete flexibility for each district to use this tool as you see appropriate. Once I'm done with all 10 standards, there's a table at the bottom that gives you a summary of how many indicators you've selected for each standard. Remember, we selected for this purpose 10% for each standard, but you'll notice that we have a varying number of indicators for each standard. Once that work is done, the evaluation tool is set up and ready to be used throughout the year. Thank you.